said, I'm Veronica Morris, a member of UD's class of 1992. And right now I serve as the sucker, the convener, I don't know what day they got me working on today as it relates to the Black Alumni Affinity Group. So we are here this evening. We're excited and delighted that you all have taken the time to sit down. We want to extend a very gracious thank you to Dr. Spina and his team for coming in and taking the time to talk to us and share in our conversations and our concerns and even our recommendations as it relates to engaging with students of color on campus, in addition to preparing for activities for our 2021 reunion. When we found out, I call it Coronication, that we've been on Coronication the last 7 months. And since we've been on Coronication and realized we couldn't have our reunion for this year, we decided to use this as a time to engage alum in what you all would like to see as we gear up to plan for 2021, in addition to kind of hearing some things that you don't want to see as it relates to the reunion weekend. So we did conduct 4 focus groups. And in those focus groups, we talked about activities. We talked about connectivity with current students. We talked about philanthropic activities. I'm going to give a big shout out to Mr. Linton, who has a phenomenal philanthropic strategy for us to engage and actually give financially to the university, in addition to us giving of our time and our talent, because oftentimes we don't have money. I got 4 teenage girls at my house. I'm one of those people. So that's why I give them of my time. So in the course of this hour and a half, we want to make sure that we're engaging you guys. We're hearing what you want. We're going to hear from staff from you know what, Merida, I'm gonna let you say what department you work in. It's too many words for me at 6 o'clock in the evening, but we want to engage in staff here. And as I give shout outs, Merida always gets embarrassed because she's my baby from Toledo. She's a St. Ursula alum, whoop, whoop, and doing a great job here. So she one of my other babies, in addition to all the other babies that I have. Like I said, during this 90-minute conversation, we want to talk about the importance of diversity and inclusion. We thank Dr. Spina because as a person who works here in the city of Dayton, for the city of Dayton, I know that the university corporately has really, under his leadership, done a lot as it relates to engaging in diversity and including everyone into the fabric of what the university's mission is, and that's to lead, learn, and serve. So we thank him. I thank him personally as a resident of the city of Dayton, an employee of the city of Dayton, a UD alum, for him driving and leading his staff. It's not just something that he speaks on paper. I've been at many evening meetings with Dr. Spina where we're having lasagna and debates at 8 o'clock in the evening. So it is not just a conversation piece here at the University of Dayton. It's something that is actually being woven into the strategic plan and the forthgoings of the activities there at the university. So with that, I don't know if Dr. Burnley's on yet, but I did want to, again, just kind of shout out the University of Dayton team. We had Amanda Rupp in the office. You know what, y'all introduce yourselves because it's too many titles this evening. So Amanda, I'm gonna start with you.
That's great. Thanks, Veronica. So I'm Amanda Rupp. I work over in Alumni Relations, and I work with reunion and affinity programs.
Carlos.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Carlos Stewart. I serve as the Senior Associate Director for Development, Diversity, and Access Initiatives in University Advancement.
Anita.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anita Brothers. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations and Engagement at your alma mater.
Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen Howe. I'm the VP for University Advancement, and I have the honor of working with all of our alumni relations and our development officers, leading that entire initiative for the institution.
Miss Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen Henderson. I am currently serving as Director for College Access, Success, and Transitions. Of course, depending on what year you were at the University of Dayton, chances are I had a different title. Stop laughing, Linton. He probably knows all of them by now.
Well, I was one of your first groups, so that I'm surprised you stayed after us. So it just shows how strong you are, Kathleen.
I was in shock and couldn't move. That's what happened.
evening. My name is Merida Allen, and I do serve as Associate Dean of Students and the Executive Director for the Multi-Ethnic Education and Engagement Center on campus. So it's a pleasure to be with all of you, and thank you for all you poured into this institution and for our community to remain as rich as it is. So it's a pleasure to be in your space today.
Dr. Leslie?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Leslie Pica. I'm a professor of sociology here, currently serving as the president of the Academic Senate, and I have the honor of working with Dr. Larry Burnley on the co-chairing the University Inclusive Excellence Council, and it's so good to
Join
see
the
you all.
meeting.
Coach?
Coach didn't want to be recognized.
But he's staff.
We keep him around for a little bit.
You still on mute, Coach.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Anthony Grant, head basketball coach here at Dayton, 87 grad. Good to see everybody. Apologize for being a little late, but glad to be with you here today.
Miss Terry?
Kathleen, you and I must be really old because we get a miss in front of our names. Terry Freeman, class of 81.
And before I introduced our board emeritus, Mr. Linton Scotland, did I miss any staff? UD staff? If I did, whoop, whoop, you wasn't on my list though, sorry. And you didn't come up on my screen.
Dr. Burnley's on.
Oh, hey, Dr. Burnley, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Introduce
I'm
yourself.
Larry Burnley. Good to see everybody. I'm Larry Burnley, Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion. Good to be here.
And Mr. Linton, you want to introduce yourself?
So yeah, Linton Scotland, this class of 84. I was there when Kathleen was a student. So nice to see everyone. It's so amazing. There's so many faces of staff now that I don't recognize, and that's a good thing, somewhat. Seeing more diverse staff, and so that's fantastic.
For those of you who are alum on the call, we are collecting the data, phone numbers, email addresses for those on the call so that we can share and distribute with you guys should you want it. Again, we want to keep you guys engaged. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat box. I always tell people don't call, text first, because if I don't know that number, I'm not going to answer. I might owe you some money. So if we do that way we can stay engaged, we can keep you guys plugged in. It's very important for us as a team that we're getting information out to you. One of the things that we heard consistently was people don't know what we're doing. People don't understand where we're going. So we want to ensure that we're staying on top of getting phone numbers, emails, contact information, so that as we continue to push and develop initiatives, that we keep you guys engaged, that we listen to your recommendations, that we listen to your suggestions and things that you want and things that you don't want. So to that end, I'm going to introduce Dr. Eric Spina, Dr. Eric, as I call him, and he told me I couldn't call him that, but I am anyway for the purposes of this conversation. If y'all know me, I don't follow rules well. And he's going to give us an overview of what his diversity and equity and inclusion plan is, in addition to how he looks at engagement with Black alum and how we can engage and help him in his mission. So Dr. Spina, thank you so much, and I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Veronica. You are a force of nature. It's always great to be in your presence and appreciate all you do as a volunteer leader, really all you do in the city. You really do make a difference. So I want to thank everyone for making time during what should be dinner time here in the Midwest and on the East Coast. This is an important meeting to me personally, but also important, really critical for the University of Dayton. I join you in the disappointment that 10 days or so ago we didn't gather on campus and have Black alumni reunion, but look forward to it in next year. I still recall very clearly, actually, one of the best weekends that I've had since I've been at UD when we were together. Hard to believe it's 3 years ago, but there's really a tremendous weekend. Recognize some of you were involved then, some of you maybe the first time engaging with me, but really appreciate your voice, really appreciate your your presence. And thanks to everyone who engaged in the various focus group sessions. As Veronica said, those are really helpful to us. So before I say what I want to say, I just want to give a couple special shout outs. Veronica already touched on Linton, but I'll just remind folks he's a very active emeritus trustee. He's actually serving on our campaign cabinet as we get ready to launch the university's first campaign in 20 years. And you probably saw the press release, but he's also he received the 2020 Alumni Award for Special Service. So we're proud of Linton. And then I'm also going to shout out Terry Freeman, who received the 2020 Alumni Award for Special Achievement. So when I told them both about these very significant awards, I told them I had some heartache that this is a very, very special awards that the university gives out, and to have their names come up in this year when we didn't have a celebration. But I promised them when we can get together, we will be together, and we will celebrate them in appropriate ways. And then I actually want to shout out to the next person you're going to hear after me, Malia Wells, who's really a leading student at UD. Really is an important leader on campus in multiple ways. And I'm just going to say she represents in many, many ways the reason that we are all here, the reason that we are all working hard to make this a university that increasingly is better and more excellent. So I'm going to try not to do, I'm having trouble getting there we go. So I'm going to try, I'm not going to drain these PowerPoint slides, but especially for folks who haven't heard me speak before, I want to touch on some really important issues in part so you can see where our priorities are, in part so you can see some of the progress we're making. At the end of the day, progress we need to make. So I'm going to touch briefly on the priority of the work we're doing in diversity, equity, inclusion. Very briefly give a rationale from my perspective, from the university's perspective. I'm going to talk about vehicles for action and markers for progress. And then I'm very quickly going to step through the 11-step anti-racism action plan that the leadership of the university adopted in June. So let me just quickly touch on prioritization of diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm going to say when they went to search for the next president after Dan Curran, if you saw the position description, it was very clear that they were looking for someone who would work with the alumni, with the university, to make this a more diverse, a more equitable, and a more inclusive university. Not that people weren't working hard previously, not that we weren't making progress, but I think it was recognized, and certainly something I heard from faculty, staff, and students, is we need to make more progress, and we need to do it quickly. So right from the get-go, I understood, and really one of the reasons I took the job is because the trustees told me this would be important. They would support me when I talked about it. They would support me when I prioritized it. They would support me when I spent money on it. And I've been really proud of the fact that the board has been supportive. I have a tremendous leadership team and folks across the university who are working hard with me. And together, I think we're starting to make some progress, but we also have a long, long way to go. So for me, this is in part personal. I've told the trustees that by the time I'm ready to step down as president, if we haven't made progress to make the university more compositionally diverse, more equitable, and more inclusive, I will have failed. No matter what else we might have accomplished as a university, I will have failed in my presidency. So for me, that's intensely personal, but it's also important for the university. And I think that's seen, if you look at this statement that we put out in 2017, they really talked about why diversity, equity, inclusion was important for the university. I'm not going to read this all, but I'm going to highlight that we affirmed very clearly, very strongly, very publicly that diversity, equity, inclusion are inextricably linked with excellence. So this is not about worrying about what other people think about. This is not about just doing the right thing. This is about making the University of Dayton excellent, which is what we're all ultimately charged to do. Because diversity at all levels of the university, from the board to our student body, can only enrich our learning environment and expand our institutional ability, intelligence, and creativity. And that our is bolded because it's purposely includes all of you, all of the alumni of color, all the Black alumni. If you don't see yourself as part of our university, our environment, then we are failing. So again, I'm not going to drain these slides, but I think it's important for you to see that. Let me briefly talk about this slide: vehicles for action and markers of progress. So, you know, it's important at a university to create as many committees as you possibly can. So I have, but these committees and work groups and initiatives are really thoughtfully designed to help us make progress where we need to make progress. The first hire I made, even before I was president, was Larry as the vice president for diversity and inclusion. His staff now in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion is an extraordinary staff, numbering 4 total. But Larry has a very broad purview. And as Larry says, he's the inaugural vice president in this area. He and I talk and meet on a weekly basis. He has access to me, and the university really never had that before, where there is someone who is charged to work across the university, work with colleagues from every division, and just help us break down barriers and make progress. I highlight here the MEC, what was OMA just a couple years ago. And I'm going to highlight just a couple things. It's no longer just an office, it's a center. So it's now even more important to the entire university, not just students of color, not just Black students, but the entire university. The scope of MEC is more significant. And now not only thinks about, you know, what do we need to do to support students of color? What do we need to support students of difference? It also works closely with many people across campus to think about what do we need to do to educate all students at UD, no matter what you look like, for an environment that is going to be increasingly more diverse. So the scope is different. The staffing has been enhanced. We have an increased number of positions in MEC, and its leadership profile is significant. So as you know, Merida is relatively new in this position, although she was previously in the center. Unfortunately, we lost Dr. Daria Graham, but you know, Merida has just stepped right in and continues to push us forward. Both Daria and Merida know that I am one phone call, one text, one email away. It's rare for a week to go by when Merida and I don't touch base about something. So access at a university is really important. The leadership, really all the staff in MEC have access to me. They know that MEC, the students that MEC supports are among the most important things at this university to me. Another thing we did, so Jen Howe was, I think, the person I hired right after Larry. Again, I wasn't yet president. Jen from the get-go understood we need to do more in terms of engaging Black alumni. We now have Carlos Stewart, who is leaning into that, working with Amanda and Anita and many others to make certain that we are seen as welcoming, seen as listening, and ultimately learning from your experiences and making this university better as a result of the things that you tell us, the things that you hold us accountable for. The Flyers plan for community excellence, we could probably talk about this at length, but this is the university's first strategic plan for diversity and inclusion. Took us a little bit over 2 years to get there because it was so thorough, because we included so many people in its development. But it was adopted just before the pandemic last year, and now we are deeply involved through Larry's leadership and Larry and Leslie's leadership in implementing this plan, which has a place in it for everyone at UD. And we now have a permanent council, the University Inclusive Excellence Council, whose job it is to not only make certain the strategic plan is implemented, but that it's ultimately successful. We have something called the President's Commission on the Status of Women as we think about intersectionality. in particular, kind of the status of Black women, the status of women of color at UD. This is a new body that meets with me on a regular basis, co-chaired by Lisa Borello and Professor Denise James, and really thinking through what is the status of women at UD and how do we make sure it continues to improve. We now have a permanent institutional bias response advisory council co-chaired by Larry and Merida. This is a new vehicle, not intended to be an intake point, but intended to be a group that comes together quickly if there's an act of bias on campus, make certain the students are supported who are hurt by that bias, make sure that I get a report, make sure that we communicate publicly as we need to when these things happen. And then the last kind of vehicle for action and marker of progress that I'll note is this 11-step action plan, which I'll talk about next. So this action plan didn't come out of nowhere, although some people think it did because it was developed pretty quickly. But it really was derived from more than 2 years of work to develop the strategic plan. The strategic plan, diversity, equity, inclusion, is diversity writ large. So it's really all forms of diversity. But what happened this summer is we recognized really more deeply than ever before that among forms of diversity, which are important to the University of Dayton, really kind of who we are, where we are in the city, where we are in this country, the importance of race needs to be elevated. And at UD, again, given our history, Blackness is particularly important. So this 11-step action plan really leans into race. And while it does certainly reference races beyond African American, it really leans into Blackness in a significant way for the reasons that I said. And quite frankly, in the aftermath of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, the statements that I was making as president, the statements we were making as a university, quite honestly seemed feeble. We desired, and I know our students, based on conversations with them, desired action and not just words. I mean, words are fine, they're helpful, but they're not a substitute for action. And we wanted to make certain that we didn't need to wait, that we didn't wait for the strategic plan to be implemented in full, while we made progress on things that are important to our growing population of students of color, faculty of color, staff of color on campus. So the President's Council, 30 strong. So these are all the deans, all the vice presidents, all the associate provosts are completely bought in to this action plan. And the cornerstones are a collective commitment. So we own this together. We obviously share it with the university, but we're responsible, we're accountable for making sure that we make progress. And each of the 11 steps, I don't have it on the slides I'll show you, but each of the 11 steps has people's names associated with it. They are accountable as we move forward. And we're going to be transparent. We're going to set metrics, set goals, and we'll report out regularly. So I'm going to just try to step through this very quick. I recognize I'm already getting close to the end of my time. We did start a little bit late, so I'll steal a little bit. So I'm going to kind of leave this here, talk about a couple of elements, and then as we get to Q&A, if you want to come back and talk about any of these in particular, I'm happy to. So this is brand new at the University of Dayton. This is happening some other places, but not everywhere. By the time this is implemented, and really I say here, we're going to define the approach by January, every single faculty and staff member at the University of Dayton will engage in learning about these items. We'll be able to really understand why DE&I is important at UD and what role we each have to make sure we move forward. And it's not coming out of anywhere. Larry and Tiffany Taylor-Smith, his associate director, have been working hard on building the Inclusive Excellence Academy, and they've been educating each year for the last 3 years hundreds of faculty and staff. But that was voluntary. Now we are setting the expectation that every faculty and staff member will engage in these important topics. Student learning. So we've had, as a long time, as part of our common academic program, requirements for students to be educated about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need to do more, especially, quite frankly, as our campus becomes more diverse, even more important for individuals who are not of difference to make certain that they get what they need so they can be part of a community that truly is welcoming, that truly does value what diversity brings to our campus. So we've done some things here, again, that we can get into, but we've made some progress through the work of actually students and MEC. We now send a very clear signal to students in the summer before they arrive as first-year students. They take something called the U Diversity module. It's not intended to teach them everything they need to know about white privilege and bias and so on. It is intended to set a clear marker that at the University of Dayton, these things are important to us and you can't opt out. You need to understand, you need to engage. This is the kind of university that we are. So as we move forward, obviously the faculty are central to these efforts to make certain that we are, that we have a curriculum that really provides the education that our students need to be successful. Extracurricular learning, I'm not going to go very much in depth here, but these examples here are different opportunities, some for leadership, like courageous conversations is something that Larry introduced for the cabinet. So that's just join the meeting. That's just the vice presidents. For faculty and staff, the Inclusive Excellence Academy. For the entire university, that's the Inclusive Excellence Scholar Residency. For students, that's SGA's Tough Talks, and the Dialogue Zone is for everyone. So these are really all new things that are intended to help us make progress. Some are brand new, others are 2 or 3 years old, but all of them, I believe, are beginning to bear fruit. Diversify the student body. So this is central as we think about our current students. They understand well that they're standing on your shoulders. And I have learned an awful lot from talking to you and to other alumni over the past number of years. And we're not done, but we certainly have made progress. 5 years ago, we typically would have 55 to 60 Black students in an entering class. This year in the entering class, we had 160. Overall, our size of our incoming Black cohort of students is up 185%. Overall, students of color are up 100% over the last 5 years. We're now just under, or actually just over 19% of the student body. Not where we need it to be, not where we must be, but certainly better than 10 or 11%. Pell eligible, we're at an all-time high for the university, almost 21%. And importantly, as I've said from the very beginning, and I know you all agree, it's not just getting the students here. That's great. We'll pat ourselves on the back. If they don't shake my hand on graduation day 4 or 5 years later, we failed. So this first to second year retention rate this year of near parity, 90.8% overall and 90.6% for Black students is something we can really, really be proud about. We can't just look at undergrad, we have to look at grad as well. So you see here our online programs, we've been able to really break through and increase the diversity there. And we now have the most diverse law school in the state of Ohio. 31% of our residential 1Ls and 17% of our online 1Ls. We're very proud of the work that Andy Strauss is doing in the law school. Front of the classroom, the deans, the president. If over time we don't make sure that those individuals look like our student body, again, we will not sustain the changes that we are making in the student body, in the curriculum, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really important. It's going to take a little bit longer because you got to deal with changing policies. You got to dig in and work with search committees and so on. But we are deeply committed to this, and it's certainly a priority in this action plan. Climate of safety, obviously very important. Fortunately, we lost Chief Chapman last year to Utah. He wanted to go out west, but we have Chief Savala's kid ready to step in right behind him. He's been tremendous. This notion of fair, impartial, and bias-free training for public safety is something that he leans into. The notion of community policing is something that he and his staff certainly believe in. So this is an area where we need to continue to focus. And Chief Kidd and Bill Fisher, our vice president in this area, take take very, very seriously. And it's just critically important for our students of color on campus. Marketing and communications. Some of us exchanged communications last year with some concerns about how we're using our marketing and communication assets. Based upon your recommendation, we hired a national expert to perform a diversity audit. Disrupted a little bit by COVID, but just as we were getting ready to come back to campus, we received their results, really, really helpful perspectives and advice. Molly Wilson, her team, Larry Burnley, myself, Jen Howe, really thinking through how we implement those, which will make us a better, stronger university in multiple ways. Alumni connections, as I said, when Jen arrived, this is one of the first things we talked about. And I'll just say, you know, we recognize right up front, we acknowledge many Black alumni, many alumni of color are not going to answer the door, are not going to answer the phone when we first knock or when we first call, in part because of challenging experiences they had at UD, in part because for too many years we haven't paid enough attention to Black alumni and the Black student experience. So this is not something we're going to resolve in a year, or 2 years, or 5 years, but we are committed over a long time to leaning in here, and the work that Jen and Carlos and Anita and Amanda and others are doing is really important. At the end of the day, it really does, it's imperative for us to make certain that we have more Black alumni, more alumni of color in key volunteer leadership positions. Let's not forget, I report to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees cares about diversity and inclusion. If they're ready to support me, we're going to make a lot of progress. If they don't, we won't. So, you know, I can't emphasize enough, if this is even the first time you've engaged with us, don't let it be the last. We need you to help us make progress. Make marginalized histories visible. As I say, there's just too few markers of the presence and legacy of Black people at UD and other marginalized groups. So we have Marshall Hall, we have the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Last year, we developed the new Roger Brown residency. That's not enough. As we try to recruit more Black faculty and staff and students, we need them to look around and say, hey, you know, there have been Black people here before me. They've done great things and they're recognized. So and I see Destiny Watson is here. She came to me and some other folks 2 years ago and said, hey, let's, you know, some universities have something called the Divine Nine Monument Area. UD should have such a thing. So I'm going to say, if it wasn't for COVID, we would have unveiled the Divine Nine Monument Area at UD a week and a half ago. Nonetheless, when COVID's over, this is something that we're going to do as just one example of the kind of marker that we need in order to signal, hey, this is a place where there is a legacy. There is a place where individuals of difference, individuals of color are not only welcome, but they've made a difference. Work with the Dayton African American community, you know, centered in West Dayton, greater West Dayton. Larry and I, from the spring of our first year, every quarter meet with a group of anywhere from 50 to 60 members of the West Dayton African American community. For a while, it was about building trust. Ultimately, it needs to be about providing connections for our students and faculty and providing mutual value. We're on the verge of, well, we've actually launched the Greater West Dayton Incubator, even though we don't yet have space. This is something that we want to provide value to Black entrepreneurs in the city, but also to create learning opportunities for our students, allow them to work across difference, better prepare them to work in this very diverse country that we're in. And then finally, supplier diversity. So our executive vice president, Andy Horner, and his team have done a lot, as Linton knows. This is near and dear to Linton's heart, to get us to a place where we have a state-of-the-art procurement system, strong and principled leadership, and baseline data. And we're now leaning into making certain that we are using suppliers that really reflect the city, the region, and the country, rather than being kind of singly focused. So this is something I think in the coming years, you'll see a big difference in terms of the contractors, in terms of the suppliers that we use. So I know I've been rushing through this. I'm trying to fit a lot in, but let me just kind of slow down and sum up before Malia steps in. So the university is firmly and deeply committed to this work, corporately, but also as individuals. I could trot out in front of you literally hundreds of people who would essentially sing Kumbaya, that the things I've said tonight are not just the president. They are faculty, they are staff, they are alumni, they are students, they are trustees who will agree this is important. If we're gonna be an excellent university that makes a difference in Dayton in this country, we need to continue to go down this path. Secondly, I just want to lean into this notion that I referenced in passing. We have to recognize all aspects of our history. The University of Dayton, like all universities, we're very proud of the great things from our past. You know, whether the past is last year, the past is 100 years ago, we're quick to talk about the things we've done. We also have a downside of our history. There are things we're not so proud of. We can't be afraid to put them on the table, to talk about them, to learn from them. And I don't have a lot of details tonight, but I'll just in passing mention that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to release a little bit of information that comes from the archives that really speaks to what I'll call kind of a problematic admissions practices that this university had in the first third, at least, of the 20th century. So there's some historical information, and the university, and both myself and some others will make some statements about what we found. But I'll just say that we're not going to shy away from that. It's not something we're proud of, but there's something we all can learn from it. So we aren't going to ignore that. We also have to recognize all aspects of our present. So I told you how we're doing in terms of increasing our enrollment of students of color, our enrollment of Black students. I'd be lying to you if I said that they're having a walk in the park. As we have had more Black students on campus, more students of color on campus, there are certainly more instances of challenges that they face. Now, I think, and Malia can certainly talk to this, I think we're supporting them as best we can. But any notion that just because we're more diverse is suddenly we're going to be a place that is universally welcoming and inclusive. Unfortunately, that's just not the way this country works right now. So I am not afraid to say we're doing great things. I'm also not afraid to say, even today, we have a lot of work that we have to do, and we're going to do it together. So I mean that's to my second last bullet there. I'm making clear progress in some areas, but we have a long way to go. So my request of you is please stay connected, whether you've been with us throughout or whether this is your first or second time engaging. Your presence will make us better. Get involved. There's many different places where we can plug you in and have you involved in a number of different ways. Certainly our students deeply value interaction with you as alums. And then maybe the most important thing that I can say tonight is I ask you to hold me accountable. I don't just want to talk a big game. I want to make certain that we are making the kind of progress that we need to as an institution. So I apologize. I've gone over. I did start late, but hopefully you found that useful. Veronica, are you going to introduce Malia?
I am. That's what Amanda told me I was doing.
Okay, so I will stop sharing. And Malia, I'm sorry if I trampled on you a little bit, but I know folks really want to hear from you.
No, you did fine. Dr. Spina, again, thank you so much for your leadership. You're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. As I said, I'm a witness to being one of those city leaders who sit in those meetings as you and Dr. Burnley share the mission and engage us in conversations. Thank you for engaging our students of colors, our babies, in the conversation and leading us into the next decade. It's truly a large undertaking because we are candidly a majority white university, and I'm still know we're in a situation where a lot of white students have never had to really encounter people of color. So we understand the undertaking. I missed Tiffany in my introductions. Tiffany, where are you? Introduce yourselves. Tiffany is with our inclusion, the executive director for inclusion and excellence. So Tiffany, there you go.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tiffany Taylor Smith. I'm the executive director of Inclusive Excellence Education in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. I work directly with Dr. Burnley and am blessed to be in this position. I'm a native Daytonian, grew up in Dayton, have been in this inaugural position for 3 years, moved back to Dayton for this job. And I say that I've been texting Carlos, Anita, as well as Amanda. I'm an active alum in my alma mater. I attended the University of Rochester in upstate New York. And to be a part of this space at the University of Dayton right now is truly exciting. Just seeing you, seeing your faces, knowing what it has taken to get to this point. Had an opportunity to be here when you had the Black Alumni Reunion Weekend. And again, I'm excited. I'm in the role that I serve within the university, but also as a woman of color, as a Black African-American woman, native Daytonian, to see this coming together for the university. And hopefully, God willing, I will be an alum as well as I enter my 3rd year of the doctoral program. I'm earning my PhD in educational leadership in the School of Education. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. So as a former BATU president, when I saw that video a few weeks ago, I literally shed tears. It's fire. If you've not seen it, go to the Facebook page. Those babies, these babies have really done a great job. And I'll call y'all baby because I'm over 50 now, I can do that. And so with that, I mean, Black Access to Unity, they took to task the deli earlier this year where they had an incident with pictures of people in blackface. I mean, these young people are really walking the talk. You talk about young people of courage, young people of valor. I just need y'all to figure out how I can buy one of them t-shirts, Malia. I done already talked to Jada like 5 times. Y'all need to figure out how I can cash app and get one of them t-shirts. Well, without further ado, we're going to allow Malia to talk about the current climate for students of color at UD and share her experience with us. Thank you, Malia, for joining us this evening.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really glad to be here. This is actually my first time, attending this town hall with you guys. This is actually my 3rd year being a part of BATU, as well as being my 2nd year on exec board, because last year I was actually the historian on the exec board. So with everything that's been going on in the world, I wanted to say, just commend our students, for their resilience and their strength to get through this, because honestly, if it wasn't for each other, I honestly don't know how we would be coping through everything that's going on, whether that be COVID-19 or, everything that's going on in the politics, especially in politics at UD as well. So a few points that I kind of want to talk about when it comes to our culture and our initiatives and everything like that. We have been really big on education, especially when it comes to Black education within UD. Within the last, I think will be our 3rd or 4th year, we have been going to the ASALA conferences, which Diversity and Inclusion has been helping fund those here lately. So we've been taking groups of students every year. One of our biggest problems is trying to take as many students as possible, but due to funding, it's kind of hard, especially since these conferences are in different states. So we've been doing that. We've also been trying to figure out ways to accommodate students, especially since we're not all able to be in one place at once, unfortunately, like we are so used to doing every year. So we've been trying to pick up the slack many ways as possible, trying to host as many events as possible, especially virtual events. For example, we just hosted a mini ASALA. So that was something that we did, and we were able to have more students come in and be a part of it, learn more about their history, more about what's going on in the world with the state of Black people. For example, Miss Morris, she had brought up the situation with the deli. That was honestly, it was incredible about how fast we moved, because the deli has been here for so long, and I don't think really anyone has really acknowledged the main issue of what was going on within the deli until this year. So actually a black student, not a black student, I'm sorry, a white student had actually brought it to our attention that there was a blackface photo within the deli. So as soon as we found that out, me and our president, Gabriel Gaspaillode, we have went and, you know, did some investigating, tried to be on the down low as much as possible. And we did find a blackface photo. As soon as we had found that out, we had meetings with President Spina, meetings with the MEC. We engaged the students to talk about how they felt about it, as well as, you know, we were in the process of developing a protest possibly. And also a sit out. So we're going to sit out in front of the store and tell people not to basically shop there. So like boycott pretty much. But due to COVID, things kind of, you know, yeah. So with that being said, another biggest issue that we face is trying to engage students, especially like this year, because I know a lot of people on their classes are always online. So staring at a screen all day can be very, very hard for students, especially the biggest things that we have been going through like within the last few months. So we've been trying to get that together. And then we have also opened the floor to discussions about like Black Lives Matter and police brutality. I know that's been like a really big thing with like a lot of students, and I know it's been weighing really heavy on a lot of people's hearts here lately. So just trying to create a space where students feel comfortable and feel safe and feel secure to be able to express their opinions and also their experiences. I know that has been a really, really big thing here lately. Oh, and also I guess I could also talk about one of the positive highlights, which is our Black Excellence Ball. So for the last few years, we've been doing that Black Excellence Ball, and it has been an amazing experience. We've heard so many positive feedbacks and opinions and everything about it. I really think it has been a highlight in like a lot of students, you know, years, one of the biggest events that we throw every year. So I think that has really been able to highlight Black excellence in many different ways for students. It gives them something to look forward to, something for them to celebrate themselves. So yeah, so that's been a really, really big thing. I think that's all I really have to share at the moment, but I'm always up for questions if anyone has any questions.
Malia, again, thank you guys for your leadership. Thank you for your advocacy. You continue to be in our thoughts and our prayers as you talk about financial needs. You know, that's something that you may want to have a conversation with Merida or Carlos to determine how alum can come in and support. I know Dr. Graham and I are talking about doing an alumni Batu group to support you guys. That's why we need some t-shirts. But really trying to do a lot in order to make sure that we're staying connected, that we're supporting you. I did have a lot of backdoor conversations when the whole deli, that's why I know about it, because I was one of the alum that they talked to about that. So continue to engage, you're not on this call because you ain't an alum yet. I didn't need to tell you that. That's why you ain't been on yet. But thank you. Good job, you guys. I appreciate you. So now we're going to open it up for questions. We're running about 10 minutes behind, but we're still leaving about 40 minutes for questions and answer. So please feel free, if you can't get in, send one in the chat room. But we'll start facilitating. So I'm gonna lead with a question for Dr. Burnley and Tiffany. Can you share more on the strategic plan and the open letter and how the university is moving forward in implementing those plans? So Dr. Burnley, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Veronica. So the strategic plan is quite comprehensive, and it really touches every aspect of the university. Of course, we have identified 4 goals upon which we have a number of objectives that's designed to really achieve a number of the things that President Spina identified. It was actually rolled out in January of this year, right before COVID hit. Certainly it was not an opportune time, but we have continued to build our capacity to move forward with developing the kinds of structures, not only at the university-wide level, but at unit and department levels across the life of the university, move forward. It's important to note that the anti-racism plan is not an add-on, or nor is it unrelated. It is a response to the national climate. There's no question about that. But every action step in that plan can be traced directly to goals and objectives in the strategic plan. So there is synergy there. We saw this as an opportunity, and quite frankly, felt very much compelled to move forward. Tiffany may say a little bit more about what we're doing in terms of the capacity we're building across the university to effectively engage the kinds of conversations and complexities and actually doing a plan like this. And so I'm going to hand it off to Tiffany to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Larry. It's interesting because we feel like in many ways we have a lot of things that we're juggling in our office. I want to acknowledge Dr. Leslie Pica, who is with us this evening as well. Her partnership and the role that she plays in the Department of Sociology, as well as the chair, the chair that she sits in, I got to make sure I get this right, and ways in which we are working across campus. And I noticed that Coach Grant is with us tonight. We spent time yesterday with athletics, the entire staff of athletics, talking about anti-racism, systemic racism. We've been invited into spaces across campus to be able to have people think about, what do these things mean? What does it mean to talk about being an anti-racist institution? And Coach Grant raised an excellent question. I just want to give him a shout out. And he asked the question, like, is this required? Is this type of training required for faculty and staff? And we're working to get to that. I will acknowledge that between the work and efforts of the strategic plan through the leadership of Dr. Burnley and Dr. Spina, we're getting there. It is definitely, we're working to look at how our faculty and staff developing professional development plans, their own personal plan, and how is inclusive excellence, developing cultural competence, a part of that plan. As a member of the UD community, whether I'm a staff member or a faculty member, I need to be thinking about how my culture, how my experiences have influenced not only the way I see other people, but how I show up in this space. And living out the execution of who we are as a Catholic and Marianist institution in pursuit of the common good, and building and cultivating an inclusive community. Each of us need to be able to do this work. And it's not just about what we are doing for students, but it's what we're doing for each other. And it is my intent in this role to continue to listen to students and make sure that their voices are heard, but also that we have conversations with faculty and staff around, what's appropriate and what's inappropriate to say. I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with faculty, staff, and students who are like, okay, wait, this happened, what should I do? And that's real. I mean, I'm sure many of you in your professions, in your work life, are having colleagues who are grappling with, I don't know what to say, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and I don't want to be judged, particularly judged as someone who's a racist, or you name it. So I feel like are in a great place. And again, I will go back to the leadership of our institution, really, in some ways pushing us. And the climate right now really calls us to really be more proactive as individuals, and not just looking, for the university to say, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that. We're getting there. And there are multiple ways through professional development opportunities, through the Inclusive Excellence Academy, that faculty and staff have opportunities to engage with each other and to learn. And right here, right now, through these two efforts, the strategic plan as well as the anti-racist action plan, there are a lot of leaders across our institution reaching out to myself, to Dr. Pica, and to Dr. Burnley, really looking, okay, can you come talk to my staff and help us think about how we navigate this space? Thank you.
So there's questions in the chat box that I'll also be trying to kind of kicking off. The first question is, what are the top 3 to 5 issues that alum can assist with for our diverse student base at UD? And following up on that is, how can alumni support programs that ensure success in keeping our students finishing their education and graduating?
I'll take the first question. That's easy. I think just your continued partnership and your presence And even knowing that you still care about this community is important to our students. And so, as has been mentioned, our diverse students are experiencing all of the things that are happening in society, and double experiencing that in the microcosm of the institution. So I think building relationships with students is extremely important. Mentoring is something I know some of our students would greatly appreciate. Internships, career opportunities, and just opportunities in general for community action, community service are some things that I know a lot of students are looking for, especially in the era of COVID, when students had their best laid plans and now are looking for plan B or C. And so if you're aware of some unique opportunities for students to still do some experiential learning, I think that would be great to highlight. And then additionally, funding. There are needs that students have. We have the MEC Experiential Learning Fund. My son's getting ready to turn the lights off, so I apologize. But there's a MEC Experiential Learning Fund that is an opportunity, and our wonderful partners can talk to you more about how to access that. But that is money that is directly from our alum and our other donors that go directly to students in their needs. And so students can apply for that funding on a rolling basis, whether they need access to technology, or students are having a hard time with transportation to get home, or for supplies to get them, the supplies they need for their academic journey. And then also tips for self-care. So students are navigating this for the first time, especially our undergraduate students. And so creating that relationship again to help students learn how to build the muscle, I think is highly, highly favorable and valuable. So I'll put an email address in the chat. You can reach out directly to our department and I can connect you to all of those opportunities.
Keep telling Merida that her son wants to be involved in every meeting that she attends. So she just needs to let that go and let that young man participate. I can't wait to see what he ends up doing with his life as he's cultivated and watch his mama do what she's doing. One of the things that I will say as an alum of a predominantly white, historically white institution is we have got to find ways to have alum re-engage with the institution, but re-engage with students. Many of us, myself included, I have friends, close friends who didn't necessarily have the greatest experience in my institution, who when they left wanted nothing to do with the institution. And I know in conversations I've had with some of you as well as other UD alum share that experience. But what's important is to connect them to students who are walking in their footsteps. And if we are able to do that in creative ways through your support and finding other alum, including yourselves, to connect them to current students, whether it's based on their major, where they're from in the world, that there's a connect point to draw them back into the institution. And it can't just be about, we want you to write a check. We want you to help support a student who is walking in the same footsteps that you walked in, and be able to draw them back into who we are right now. And again, I think that video is an amazing way. And I didn't go to UD, but I was like, dang, I wish I had family members saying, like, I want to go to UD. And many of them are way past the college age.
And Tiffany, just to let you know, because you did not join us on our focus groups, because see, you doing too much talking, you wasn't there. No, we've already as alum made, that's one of the things that we have charged ourselves with, is coming up with a system where we actually engage and figure out how we can connect working through MEC with students. Because we can come at them through, Alpha Kappa Alpha, which is where I'm a member of, or Alpha Phi Alpha, whatever. There's so many ways that we can connect to alum. We just thought as a group that it would be best to channel our efforts and activities through MEC. So then that way the young people don't have so many of us coming at them, maybe with different agendas, maybe with the same agenda. So to Merida's point, who's also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, who for those of you who don't know, that's one of the reasons why we want to really engage and work with Merida, because she has that pulse with the students. And so that kind of follows up that question, Merida, I think, about how we can support. I think it's through programming and alum activity that we can do through either our graduate alumni chapters or through Tiffany, what you and Dr. Burnley's doing, but mostly through what Merida's doing. We have Carlos who collect all the money for us. He'll rake it up for us. and help funnel that money. So we're trying to make sure that we are working within the organizational system as alum to ensure that we're connecting with the students, because I think that's all what we want, is to make sure they're good. So to that end, Soleil had a question and she told me how to pronounce it. So when I did it, I didn't say it wrong. It says, here's my question. How is the plan slightly different for faculty, staff learning versus student learning? I saw different wording for each group. Also, is there a possibility of instituting a required 101 course for all students to address the educational needs around these issues? So whoever would want to take that one.
I don't know if you'd like me to, actually, I saw Eric. Sorry, Eric, I'll go ahead and.
Oh, well, I'm going to give a high level. I'll count on you and Larry to fill in. I'm just going to say that the difference in wording is me quickly making slides. Obviously, faculty and staff are going to come at it differently than students are. But still, I mean, the base education and what we want people to have is going to need to be roughly the same. The thing I think we're going to need to do for faculty and staff is give people multiple access points. I mean, not everyone needs, I'm going to say, the rudimentary level. So some people have evolved, and so I think we're going to need to scaffold for faculty and staff. As far as 101, I think probably Professor Pika or Larry can talk about that.
Yeah, and Soleil, I think we had a class together too, so it's certainly good to see you. So, so certainly in terms of looking at the differences too, I mean, keep in mind we have a lot of leeway in terms of requirements that we can have students do. So obviously, in terms of the curriculum, we do have spaces in the current Common Academic Program. There's a diversity and social justice requirement that all students have to complete, no matter what their major is, as well as the diversity institutional learning goal. So in some ways, it's kind of an easier space dealing with students. Faculty can certainly be a little bit more challenging. So, and truthfully, just I can share with you many conversations that I've had, our students are really pushing the faculty and staff along. So students have really grown up with multicultural, sort of awareness and education. Many of our faculty, we've got to catch up. And so the bigger issue is how do we make sure that we're doing this work, that we're building that capacity, so we're not landing on cultural taxation for faculty and staff on color, because this cannot be on the backs of faculty and staff of color, here at UD. So certainly, what are those points in which it can be an expectation and not just an invitation? How do we tie it to, tenure and promotion policies? How do we tie it to, other kinds of annual evaluations? And so I think certainly that can be one key way of seeing some of those differences, if that helps out, Soleil.
Yeah, well, I think this issue really touches on, I think, a core, very persistent and historic form of systemic racism in our institutions. Dealing from a curricular standpoint, our stories, people on this screen, our histories, our scholarship, our perspectives, we continue to be electives. You can get degrees and without really having any nuanced or complex understanding of the history and experiences of African-American people or other marginalized groups in our society. You can take it if you want to, but you really don't have to get a degree. And so that's the key. That's not unique to UD, but we recognize that here at UD, and you will note that in our strategic plan, we're addressing the curriculum and co-curricular experiences to move our voices and our stories really from the margins to the center of intellectual discourse. And to Dr. Pika's, the Leslie's point, you will note as well, with the anti-racism action plan, we've actually moved, and this was a decision the president, really has made. We've been talking for years about developing a culture around professional development and training and education tied to diversity, equity, and inclusion, from an invitation for faculty, staff, and administrators to enter into these spaces to one of an expectation. Many of you on the screen are working in industries in the private sector where it's not an option, it's mandatory. The message is clear. If you want to exceed here, if you want to excel here, if you want to advance here, you need to do this because we are tying, this development around intercultural competency as an example to our understanding of excellence. And we've done that here. It's not typical in higher education, in our industry, to do that. But Eric has made that decision that there will be an expectation. And we are tying, we're sending the message that to be excellent here at UD, our understanding of excellence is that we're giving attention to these issues in our professional development and growth. So those are key issues. And the last thing I'll say, Malia and other students are really pushing the same issues that students have been pushing since the 60s, right? We want to see ourselves in the curriculum. Not only do we want to see ourselves, we want other students to see our experiences across multiple disciplines. So that work is going on, but we're moving, I think, in the right direction.
Well, I'm just going to jump in. I know we beat this one to death, but I want to just give you a sense of what having more diverse students, more students of color, more Black students on campus means. So a number of us had a couple of open Zoom sessions with MEC students, with Black students in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd, and really was a lot of listening. And Larry can attest to this. After one of those sessions, I told Larry, I think it was on the weekend, I said, number one on our action plan has to be requiring all faculty and staff to undergo, to engage in education on these topics. Because what I hear from students is simply this is of the utmost importance to make certain that faculty in the classroom understand something about what it means to be a student of color at UD in a predominantly white institution. And that all we're asking students to do, we have to ask something of our faculty and staff. So really, that opportunity to engage with Malia and Gabe and 20, 30, 40 other Black students for whom these moments are painful and hard and difficult. As president, me engaging in those conversations is so important. And I think once upon a time, we just didn't have that opportunity to really hear from our students, a diverse set of opinions from our students of color, from our Black students. But that is one of the things that really motivates me as I think about how can we best support these students who we deeply care about, who we want to be successful. And it just came to me that we absolutely need faculty and staff to get on the same page, period.
If I may add, if that's okay, I just want to say, from my standpoint, so I am a history major with also a minor in Africana Studies and psychology. What I've noticed since I've been here, since my freshman year, there wasn't really a lot of Black Studies curriculum going on. It wasn't until my sophomore year when we had a lot more. And when I tell you that, it has made a huge difference within the MEC community, because in those classes, I've seen so many MEC students take advantage of those opportunities. Also, just the self-awareness and the actualization of it all, learning about yourself, about your culture, it comes in handy. Because us, even though it's not our jobs, at the end of the day, being a Black student, we are still educators at the end of the day, because we have to educate everyone else around us. So when we have the opportunity to take those classes, we are able to educate our white peers as well. We are also able to defend ourselves whenever there is a policy that is wrong. We're able to reflect on our journey so far that we've had to go through. So it has made a tremendous job, and I'm glad that the university is heading towards that direction, and possibly making it mandatory for our white peers to be taking these classes.
Can I just say, just quickly, the conference that Malia spoke about earlier, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. I'm a historian by training. I've been a long-term member of that organization. University of Dayton is now an institutional member, but the motivation out of our office to get the students into that space really came because, quite frankly, I wanted these students to get a sense of what they weren't getting here. And I'll say that plainly, right? A lot of times the students don't know what they don't know. I knew that for the most part, from their K through 12 education, they weren't getting, they weren't surrounded, around scholars who look like them, scholars, peers from other institutions from around the country. And it was transformative for these students. they got a taste of what they weren't getting. And they came back with a greater, with an expectation that, you know what, we believe in UD, we embrace the institution, but there's some things we're not doing as well as we should be. And the students were able to see themselves, lectures. They were part of the critical mass. They were the dominant, group of these brilliant scholars from across the country. And so, there's reason behind that. And the fact that the university now is an institutional member says, again, something about our commitment to moving these needles toward really embodying inclusive excellence across the life of the institution.
Thank you all for the comments. We probably have about 10 more minutes, 10, 15 more minutes. So I definitely wanted to throw this one question out, and that's to Mr. Linton. Mr. Linton, I have a question for you. I've heard you've talked about in your meetings, in the focus group meetings, about the philanthropic strategic plan that you, and an initiative that you're serving on behalf of the university. So can you share more on that, and how can we as Black alums support the university's goals surrounding the campaign, particularly coming off the heels of Malia saying, sometimes we need money to travel, and Merida saying sometimes we need money to send babies home. I think we oftentimes get so bogged down in the educational piece that we forget your basic needs of health, safety, and welfare needs to be met in order to be able to perform efficiently academically. So if you could just share with us, the message that you have shared with us in the focus groups, I greatly appreciate it.
Sure, thanks very much, Veronica. And, as we were talking in the focus group, as African-American students, we always talk about, and again, for those who are from that Baptist background, a lot of times we talk about your time, your talent, and your treasury, right? So in essence, sometimes we have more time and we have more talent than we have money or treasury. But there are also opportunities to provide resources that are helpful for our students. And so this campaign, and I'm glad Jen is on the call, because Jen is leading that effort with others on the co-chair, with members of the board, and we have a cabinet of folks that really working on pushing that forward. And I say this is so important because one of the major goals of this, of major objectives of the campaign, is for scholarship and affordability and access, right? And a lot of times we know sometimes our African-American students are not able to attend UD because of, they don't access and also funds, right? And also while they're there, from a retention perspective, money for books, money for some of the other things. So we think that as African-Americans, to whom much is given, much is required. So we can give back to the university that have given so much to us. And so we look for opportunities, and you can earmark your funds to those areas, right? To help in students for books or what have you. And I think that means a lot to the young people who are at UD to know that, hey, they're alumni who is supporting their activity. So we have started that effort, and and for us as African-American alumni, we want to be part of that campaign. A significant amount of the money is going towards scholarships and towards affordability for students, and we want to be able to support in any way we can. So I think that is really the main message. And the neat thing is, as we started to do that, and we were going to utilize the alumni, Black alumni get together to really reiterate that message. And I know I talked to Coach Grant and some of the others, and they were really supportive of what we're doing. And I know Jen is. So I think that is one of the key things that we can do to help our students of color who are attending the university and provide support for them. And that's why, for me, is the campaign. So the campaign is going on, and you can earmark your gifts towards that. And it doesn't matter whether it's a small donation. The more important thing is participation, right? We want to be participating in that campaign. So Jen, I don't know if there's anything I missed in that, because I know you've been at the forefront of that. Maybe you could just add.
Lynn, thank you so much for the introduction on that. As you said, this is a campaign about people and programs. It's not about, facilities and other big centers and institutes. We've decided that after 20 years of not having a campaign, we really needed to focus first on the people and on our students in particular. So as Linton said, keep in mind, 94% of our student population, no matter where they come from or who they are, receive some form of financial aid. That's a lot of students. And in the current environment, in the fall semester, COVID itself actually had us adding on average $2,200 to every single financial aid package that our students were receiving because of some of the financial hardships that had been created by this situation. And so to Linton's point, what we have really come to understand about the UD community is the collective power that comes from groups of individuals giving what they can, when they can, to the things they care about the most. And it really has paid enormous dividends, and our students are the biggest recipients of that, quite frankly. So for those of you who've been involved in the past with your time, with your talent, and yes, your financial resources, we're extremely grateful. For those of you who would be willing to join us, we welcome you. Our campaign will not just be about money, it will also be about engagement and participation. So just by giving small amounts of your time and your expertise, and yes, a gift on a regular basis, you will have impacted all three of our goals, and quite frankly, provided an enormously sound foundation for the university going forward. So thanks for your time, your consideration, and Linton, as always, my hat's off to you, sir, for your leadership. We're very appreciative.
Thanks, Jen. So we have about 10 minutes. Jacqueline, I know you have a question, but I want to throw this one out right now because I'm getting ready to put Coach on the hot seat. Coach, first of all, as Black alum, you have no idea how proud we are of you. We're proud of all of our Black alum, but the fact that you systematically took our team to a national championship caliber team surely shows your understanding of how to lead young men. I think we oftentimes think coaches are just good at sports, but you, in order to do that, you have to be a leader of men. So thank you. Thank you. I know that your son was out. I want to thank you for instilling in them, to your children, the strength and the courage to speak against things that are socially wrong. So this question I'm lobbing out to you because it was a question I also asked in the chat. When COVID hit, I know that the athletes really, I mean, when you think about the fact that we were going to go to the finals, I was claiming it. The mental impact on your players as well as the team, what type of resources, what type of support does students get, or did they get as it relates to COVID and mental wellness and that type of support? Because I know I have a friend who works for the women's team, and she talked about how they had to walk each player in and talk about the season was suspended. So I know not only were your players impacted, but I know all the students were impacted by that. But what type of resources does the university have that assist mental wellness there on campus? And I'm picking on you because I figured you had to work with it.
Well, there's only probably a part of that I can answer. And you got to understand, there's been a lot that's happened since the season ended. With COVID, when it hit, it ended our season, but it also ended the semester. So, the students we were heading to New York to play in the A-10 tournament, and the students were all basically told that they had to leave campus. So when we got back in town, once the tournament was canceled, there weren't any students on campus. So we ended up meeting with our guys and then sending them home and really not knowing when the next time would be that we'd have a chance to get together. So just constant communication with Eric, with Neil Sullivan, our AD, about what the next steps would be. We had seniors that we wanted to make sure were where they needed to be in terms of being able to graduate and finish up the semester. We had guys that were in the process of making decisions in terms of what they wanted to do with their future. And then we had a group that you know, would be staying with us, in a group that was coming in. So there was a lot of different things that we had to try to figure out in the middle of trying to understand shelter in place and how to keep everybody safe with COVID. There was just a lot going on. But certainly the communication with Eric and Neil helped me to be able to communicate to our team next steps. And I thought that was critical. And then obviously, you know, when George Floyd's murder happened and we found out what happened with Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, just being able to connect with our guys about what they were feeling and going through, and just you know, just sharing and talking and trying to figure out how we could help each other and how we could support each other. And again, I think I had several conversations with Eric and Neil and our players and Larry and Tiffany, and you know, we were able to put together some things for our athletes, for the women's basketball athletes. We did some things together that I thought was really productive. Shauna and her staff got together with our staff and just figured that we've got the majority of our players are African American. The majority of Shauna's players are African American, and so trying to meet them where they were, because they weren't on campus, right? They were all in their individual cities, you know, in different places with different resources. But certainly being able to get together like we are tonight on Zoom and just have some conversations. And, you know, so Eric was kind enough to speak to both teams, and Larry and Tiffany put together a program for our group to share with them the resources that were on campus available to them. We were able to get Mayor Whaley to speak with our group. Chief Bill and Chief Kidd were kind enough to join. So there's been a lot of help, you know, on campus here to make things available for all of our athletes. So I've been really pleased with it. I think obviously we all know there's certainly a lot of work that we still need to be able to do. A lot of things I think that we'd all like to see continue to happen. But you know, I'm grateful for the leadership that we have, for what Eric's commitment and follow through with what he's committed to doing in terms of what we need to continue to see happen, not only on campus, but hopefully in the Dayton community. You know, so that's probably, I'll stop there, but that's where I hope that answers your question and gives you maybe an idea of what we've experienced.
Well, if there's anything we can do to assist you, your team, outside of the great work that is already happening, please. I know with student athletes, it's sometimes a different game because they're moving and yeah, practice and everything, but please let us know what we can do to support you and your efforts, as well as Shauna and her efforts. I know we adopted one of the women basketball players. So, you know, whatever we can do to assist you and your team, please know that we're a resource to you as well. Jacqueline, I'm gonna let you have the last question because you were so patient.
Well, thank you. I have a question I don't think has been addressed yet this evening. If it has, then I apologize. I'm concerned with the recruitment of faculty of color and staff. It does seem that we have a nice staff when it comes to diversion, inclusion, and equity, and we have staff when it comes to athletic coaches, and we have staff when it comes to BATU or MEC or whatever the initials you want to use. But as a music grad, you know, I would like to see some faculty of color in music, for example, or faculty of color in English, you know, language arts. And I'm wondering what, if anything, is being done in that area.
So I'll take a stab at that. Go ahead.
Let me start, and then Larry can fill in. So first I'm going to say you need to visit our music department. I mean, it's actually one of our most diverse departments. We have some extraordinary young faculty of color. Think about
I'll interrupt you. I have visited the music. I donate to that every year. okay?
Right.
And I'm part of the alumni band, so I do know. I was just
Wonderful.
using music as an
Good.
example. Sorry.
Okay, good. No, so if the rest of the university was as diverse as music, we'd be in great shape. But to your question, you know, as I said earlier, that all the progress we're making on student enrollment is all going to be vapor unless we change the faculty, staff, and the administration. I'm talking about deans. I'm talking about vice presidents. I'm talking about the next president. So we had a group working over about a year and a half, or give a report about a year ago, focused on policies. What policies, what processes do we need to change to make certain that when there's a search committee that's formed, they get the right training so they know what to do, what not to do to make sure we get pools that are more diverse, know where to look for more diverse candidates, and know really how to conduct a search that is going to be more equitable and look to enhance our diversity. So the policy piece, I think we're now okay. What we're really lacking is, Larry, Tiffany, our Vice President for Human Resources, Troy Washington, these folks all have more than full-time jobs. What we need is to be at least one, and I think ultimately more than one specialist who know, you got to get out on the road, you got to find candidates, you got to bring them in. You can't just put an advertisement out there and say, come to UD and teach mechanical engineering and hope you get some Black candidates or some Latinx candidates who apply. You need to go out there. You need to look at PhD students. You need to know Michigan is a great place in mechanical engineering for students of color. You need to go get them. You need to convince them to come to UD. So more proactive is where we need to go. Right now, to be honest, we're making progress in some areas and none in others. What we need is really an effort across the university. And ultimately, it does rest on Larry, myself, the provost, head of human resources, and we're committed to make progress. So this is one of the areas, Jacqueline, where I want us to be held accountable. Larry?
Yeah, just real quickly, thanks, Eric. And thanks for that question, Jacqueline. You nailed it. We recognize this. Eric won't kind of pat himself on the back, but the task force that he named, we gave Eric an 84-page report with over 70 recommendations identifying best practices to achieve a greater racial ethnic diversity across the workforce, as well as addressing gender equity. This includes, of course, faculty. Eric read that thing twice and came out with 10 priorities that we began to operationalize last year. Last year, the University of Dayton, for the first time, became a registered recruiter at the National Institute of Teaching and Mentoring, which is a massive recruitment and mentoring of PhD students of color from across the country. So we're there, we're moving into our second year of recruiting in that area. There's a number of things that we're doing out of those best practices that we identified. You'll notice in the anti-racism action plan, we added a word on this issue that does not show up in the strategic plan. The strategic plan has goals and objectives to achieve greater diversity within the faculty. The anti-racism plan uses the word aggressive, an aggressive plan. We've really upped the ante on this. It's absolutely crucial. And we recognize there's investment of time and resources for us to be competitive in the marketplace of higher education to identify, recruit, retain, promote, and advance the very best. And so we're on that. And that's another way in which, quite frankly, Black alumni can really partner with us in terms of creating, because we're in the process of developing national and local pipelines for a sustained effort to achieve goals tied to that. So thanks for the question. I really appreciate it.
I wanted to also mention Roshonda. Roshonda, introduce yourself. She's on faculty there at the University of Dayton. I didn't have a chance, so introduce yourself really fast.
Thank you. I'm also an alumni twice, 98 and 2008. And I'm a faculty member in the Department of Teacher Education. So it's good to be on this meeting with everyone. And to let you know that it's so important that with Veronica, but to let you know that's really our goal is, for me, is to create teachers who invest in our children and who don't see our children from a deficit perspective. So that's much of what the work that is entailed in what I've been doing with the Urban Teacher Academy, and then trying to have that trickle not just to that group who say they want to go teach urban, because diversity is everywhere. So having that all of our teachers lead being culturally competent and committed to anti-racist education, abolitionist education, all those things. So I'm really happy to have connected with you all. And know that this is the thing that I echo the concerns about more faculty of color. It helps to see yourself reflected in those people who are in those roles that you aspire to be. And I think, and I can see the progress in that, and I know that and encourage the university to continue that. So thank you for the opportunity to say hello to everybody.
You're welcome. So as we close, because we did run late, but we're almost on time, I want to thank everyone for participating. Dr. Spina, you and your team, thank you so much for being here. Dr. Burnley, I know your advocacy in the community. Tiffany, my whole alumni team, man, y'all put up with me. I'm so grateful. To my alum, we all had a great experience or not a great experience, but the fact that you're here on this call means you're committed to the mission and the goals of the university. So please stand with us. Trust me, it may be kumbaya on these calls, but it is not when we're in person. So we have committed as a group, as the Black Alumni Affinity Group, to put together a one-page scorecard to talk about, just to take all of that PowerPoint that Dr. Spina did and put it on that one pager, to talk about philanthropics, to talk about athletics, to talk about connectivity. Because as we sell our story to our friends, our colleagues, our peers who are also alum, we need to tell them, look, the university has done this. We've not done a good job in tooting our own horn. So we need to make sure that we're sharing the message, that because all of the comments have been, I didn't know you guys were doing that. You guys are doing good work. We're going to create a scorecard to take with that. We're also committed to getting you the names of the faculty and staff that are here on this call. We've had that request. We're committed to doing that. Do not stop in sharing questions and having questions, and get involved. I'm trying to create a succession plan because Dr. Spina said he wasn't going to let my kids come for free. So I'm trying to develop a succession plan so that other alum, it's not just me. I'm not the only Black alum. So I need you in the trenches. I need you to become involved. I need your voice, because then I can say it's not just me saying these things. I have a team of people behind me. So thank you. I pray that God continues to keep your family safe and healthy. Dr. Burnley, to that end, I'm going to let you close us out in prayer. We should have started that.
Amen. Thank you. Let us pray. God, we give you thanks and we give you praise, God, for showing up and showing out in the lives and stories of each person on this call, and those who've come through these hallowed doors at the University of Dayton. Thank you, God, for being with us and ordering our steps, for the gifts of those who have supported us. Thank you for the work that is going on now. We thank you even in the midst of the challenges we face. We know that there are opportunities, and we know that through you, all things are possible. Order our steps and support us, God, and pour out your spirit afresh upon us. And help us, God, to believe in that which we cannot yet see. But we know and we are assured that because of you, the ancestors for which support us, out of witnesses, and those who are yet to come, we will be victorious. It is in your great name that we pray, even Jesus, who is the Christ, and all God's people said.
Amen. Dr. Spina, can we invite you back in 6 months?
You can, anytime you want me, you got me. How's that?
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a good night. Stay safe.
Thanks, Veronica.